my house is not so with God. What does he mean by that? Well, David here is acknowledging that he wasn't a man who was just and who ruled in the fear of God. How do we know that? Because we know the story. Those of you that have gone through this whole series with us, you know the story of the life of David. You see, he started so well. He trusted God. Yes, he had some stumbles even before he came to the throne of Israel. But once he got there, he ruled with justice and the fear of God, and then he fell. Now, why did he fall? Well, he made some very poor decisions that were unjust. And I pointed out each one of those decisions. His problem with women and his own lust. His problem with Joab, his general, who committed murder and he did nothing about it. And the list goes on and on. I pointed out each one of these faults, and ultimately it nailed him at the end of his life. And he committed adultery with Bathsheba, and then he killed her husband to cover it up. Not real nice, not real good. But why do I believe David returned to the Lord and was restored by God? Because of his admission right here. These are the last words of David, and he is declaring, although my house is not so with God. He realizes, he acknowledges here that he or his family has not brought this kind of blessing to the nation. And so honesty here is such a powerful example. That's why I believe he is restored and was restored in his personal life. Now, I have met a lot of folks that have fallen terribly in their personal life. Several pastors that are friends of mine have fallen, done incredibly corrupt and evil things. And many times I have ministered to them. And I see two responses. One, where someone acknowledges their fault and they just go, you know what, I blew it. I was not fearing God. I did not obey him. I have no excuse. And then another response is blame shifting. They point the finger at somebody else. They rationalize and justify and excuse, and they have every excuse in the book for why they did what they did. I believe one individual can be restored and the other will not, because you have to take responsibility for your fault, and you have to confess that, you have to ask forgiveness for it, and you have to deal with it. You cannot conquer what you will not acknowledge as fault. It can't happen. It's not going to happen. And so when I see that, I know this is not going to go well. It's not going to happen. Listen to what David said in Psalm 51, verses 2 and 3. Here is where he is acknowledging his fault. He says, "Wash me thoroughly from my iniquity, and cleanse me from my sin. For I acknowledge my transgressions, and my sin is always before me." He doesn't say, well, wash me thoroughly from their problem. It's all their fault. You know, it's Bathsheba. I mean, why did she have to come out on that rooftop? I mean, it's Joab's fault. Why didn't he make me come along instead of leaving me in Jerusalem? There's no rationalization. There's no justification. There's just, it's my sin. So, if you have fallen and you want to be restored, this is the only way it's going to happen. You have to confess your trespasses. You have to acknowledge, take responsibility. This is my fault. It's not someone else's fault. I am the one that made this decision. And so if you want restoration, that's what it requires.